Carnegie Startup Group Student Committee. I'm here to introduce you all to Mr. Paul Horn. Paul is a 2004 Penn State graduate who majored in IST. By his senior year, Paul has started his own company providing remote IT and web design services to many clients across the country. After working for 6 Fortune 500 companies in the past 15 years, including Oracle, IBM, and currently Microsoft, Paul has seen many different perspectives from startup life to sales and business development at major corporations. One thing remains true across each experience: the ability to sell an idea and putting yourself in someone else's shoes is critical. So, without further ado, let's put our hands together and welcome Paul Horn back to Penn State.
Thanks, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Sure, perfect. So I appreciate the introduction, and I wanted to give you a quick background on myself here in a second, a little deeper than what Ethereum just mentioned. But the interesting thing out of all this is that when I started my career at Penn State, like most of us, had no idea what I really wanted to do after college. I knew that this was a great institution to be a part of. IST is a really great program. The technology industry was really interesting to me, and so if you would have told me in 2000, when I started at Penn State, second class to go through the IST program, and told me I was going to be a salesperson for my career, I would have said, yeah, there's no way, right? I was doing coding, hands-on, website design, etc. So just very interesting to see where life takes us. Decades of blue and white. I've been a Penn Stater for my entire life. Was literally born at the hospital overlooking Beaver Stadium. Grew up in the area. My dad was getting his MBA when I was born here at Penn State, and we just never left. And now my mom works at Penn State, with the Alumni Association. And you can see I moved away for 2 years. I moved away after I graduated to Boston with IBM, and also to the Philadelphia area with IBM. And when I quickly realized that it didn't really matter where I lived, I could travel to anywhere from anywhere and work virtually, it was just a no-brainer. Moved to State College and was able to basically work here for the past 12 years, right? Working for all these big companies. And I'll talk about that in a second as well. Again, 2004, second class to go through the IST program. Really cool time to be a part of Penn State. Penn State was making an investment at the time, and actually I have a little blast from the past in my slides. You'll see I got carried away. We actually made yearbooks back when I was in college. And I'm not talking about Z, I'm talking an IST yearbook. And it was just a collection of all the cool things that happened over the course of the year. And so I actually opened the yearbooks and started going through it before I came here today and realized, wow, there's some cool stuff in there. So history of the building, I'll talk about some of that in just a second. Try not to get too far off topic from talking more about sales, but we'll get there eventually. After graduation, I was with the IST Alumni Society. It's something I highly encourage you all to participate in. If you have the opportunity to do so, it's a great networking opportunity, a great way to stay in touch with some of your former classmates and really see where everybody ends up. It's cool. It was cool to be a part of that over the years. And by 2010, I was the president-elect. 2012, I was the president and had 2 years as past president as well. And as part of being the president, I had the opportunity to sit on the IST advisory board, which was comprised, still is, but at the time was comprised of some really interesting people, CEOs of major corporations, CIOs, and we had the opportunity to meet them and still to this day maintain a lot of those connections. So just a great experience overall. And then finally, again, just a quick show of hands. Here, I think most people play seniors. Yeah, okay. Okay. So when you graduate, right, whether that's May, August, December, whatever that is, you will get a free membership to the Penn State Alumni Association. And that's good for 1 year, and then keep it up. Stay active. Penn State has the largest dues-paying alumni association in the world. It's one of the coolest things to be a part of. There's 580,000 alumni currently living out there, and there are about 180,000 of those that are actually members of the dues-paying members of the Alumni Association. So highly recommend it. Stay connected to Penn State. It's amazing how many times I've walked through airports. And every time I travel, every time I'm on a plane, especially when I'm coming home to State College, I wear a Penn State shirt of some kind, right? Polo shirt or whatever. And every single time I get someone in the airport shouting out, "We are." And this has happened in Heathrow, in London, it's happened in Rome, it's happened in San Francisco, Seattle, San Diego. I even had Little Rock, Arkansas. small little airport, and it's we're everywhere. So highly recommend staying connected. It's a great resource as you grow your career and maintain your network. So the history lesson. When I graduated, so it's 2003, so I graduated in 2004, but this was the cool technology at the time. Right? So iPod just came out. Awesome. Really neat. You know, listen to all your music in one spot, didn't have to walk around with CDs in your backpack. The USB jump drive, like we're running the whole presentation this morning off of a USB jump drive. This was a novel idea. The Nokia N-Gage. I've never even had one. I don't even know what it is, but this was a fairly cool tech. And same thing with the DVD camcorder. Like this, nowadays we don't even think about this, right? Nobody has these things, and it just shows you how much changes so fast. And then obviously, here's myself in a couple pictures I found. I've changed a lot too. Put on a couple weight, have a couple kids now, family. Life changes. Also another blast from the past. Actually, here you guys are gonna kick out. Here's your professor, Allison, right there. Student government. Here's Mark Friedenberg, right there, another professor at IST. So it was pretty cool being on the IST student government. I was the president of student government in 2002, 2003, but it was just amazing to see that take off and be a part of IST today. IST building. I actually gave tours of the IST buildings. The CEO of Xerox, Ann Mulcahy at the time, came in 2002 and wanted a tour. And so we gave her one. And we had the hard hats on and had special t-shirts made up that had this logo on the top, you can see. And we gave, so the building was being built as the program was being built. So it was really, really cool to be a part of that and see all that. And the building was actually completed in November of 2003. So for my senior year, classes were able to be held here. However, I never had a class in the building because at the time the classrooms were too small to accommodate the class size we had over in Brooklyn, which is where all of my classes were. So just interesting history. Like, you don't even think about that. If you're in this building, you're part of the IST program, this is it, right? But this all had to be built from the ground up. And it's just cool to see that change. And here, obviously, here's what we are today. Now, it's Westgate building, but I prefer this picture personally. And here's the underlying theme here. Change is the only constant. Okay? So there's many people are quoted as saying this. And you've got folks, everyone from Steve Jobs, right, or Bill Gates, right? Everyone brings this to light in a lot of their big presentations that they give, whether they're releasing a product or talking about their company. But this was actually this was attributed, this quote attributed to Heraclitus, who's an ancient Greek philosopher, back I think it was 500 BC. And if you identify this early on in your career, you will succeed so much faster than if you don't. And the reason I bring this up is that what I quickly learned from being as a part of Penn State, part of the IST program, was that we weren't here to learn about the coolest and newest technology. That was just happened to be the soup du jour, right? We were here to learn about how to learn about the technology, right? And so if you can stay on top of everything that is coming through today, and learn how to stay on top of all the technology that's coming out tomorrow, you will be successful. So we're learning how to learn, not necessarily learn the technology. I'll talk a little bit about my career experience. So I started actually out of high school, graduated high school on Saturday from State High down the road, and ended up going to work for Raytheon, had an internship starting on Monday. And I was doing web design as well as database management and network management. Really cool experience, and actually, talking about a second, I actually had an offer from Raytheon coming out of college to go work for them doing a top secret clearance project. Would have been pretty cool, but we'll talk about those options in a second. And then my manager at Raytheon informed me that he wanted me back, but he said 2 years is enough, go out and learn someplace else. And if you really like Raytheon after the next 2 years of internships, come on back, we'll have an offer on the table for you. And so I went and I worked for my cousin, who was starting up 2 companies in Denver. And they were basically a mortgage company that was trying to leverage the technology that was current at the time. So Excel spreadsheets were, the norm at that time. So we, if anybody's in the movies or the room see the movie Office Space? Okay, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. required watching for anybody looking to go in the corporate world. But they had this report called the TPS reports. It was the bane of everybody's existence in that movie. And so we made the TPS reports, the total paperless system, because we were tired of printing out huge papers of documents for every single closing that we had with every client that was going to get a mortgage. And so we managed everything digitally. We managed the whole lead flow of mortgages online through a web interface that we built out in Java and Oracle backend. And this was pretty cool stuff. And actually, by the time I came to leave from Denver to come back to Penn State for my senior year of college, they said, hey, look, we can't afford to keep you on as an employee. We want you to start your own company, and we want you to contract out to us all of the IT that we need. So when they had a new employee start, they would FedEx me overnight a laptop. I would configure it, FedEx it back overnight. And I would fly to Denver once a month for a weekend, and I would do on-site troubleshooting and fixing and setting up new systems. Fly back, do classes the next couple weeks, fly back out. It was actually a pretty cool gig. And I ended up getting 3 other clients in the Denver area. So when I flew out over the weekend, I was kind of making the rounds and had the opportunity to learn, like, hey, this is something that's needed, right? The mortgage industry had a significant, they still do, by the way, but they had a significant lack of technology at the time. We needed people who knew what they were doing. So here was a skills gap, and I was able to provide some answers for them. So that was where Horn Technology Consulting was born. So working from my apartment, doing all this kind of stuff, it was cool. I had a couple clients locally do website design, which was a lot of fun. And then came time for graduation. And I looked at my client list with Horn Tech and said, okay, I could keep this going, right? Have to grow this significantly, or I could potentially look at other options. And so I had 4 offers on the table when I graduated from Penn State. One was to go back and work for Raytheon, and I would have gone the path of a Six Sigma project manager, and eventually got Six Sigma black belt, which would have been really cool. Got a top secret security clearance. I went through the fingerprinting process, and if I accepted, I was going to go and do the polygraph and everything from there. I had an offer from my cousin to come back and work for him full time and get back truly into startup mode and develop some new business ideas and companies with him. And then I had 2 offers from IBM. And the first one came from IBM Consulting, and it was a role working for the public sector team down in Washington, D.C., working on big-time public sector clients and just picking up whatever needed to be done, whether that was ERP consulting, picking up SAP skill set or Oracle skill set, whatever was needed. And the last offer, which is the one I ended up taking, was to go work for IBM in sales. And the reason I chose that offer is because I looked at all 4 of them, and I said, okay, I could go the consulting route. Probably 80% of my peers went that route after college. And that was really great. A lot of people working at Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, you name it. They've had great careers. And I looked and I said, okay, I could go the startup route. And then I said, okay, I could go the government defense contracting route. And with all those, I said, okay, I know the technology already. I'm not worried about that. I feel like I have a good handle on those already. But my skills gap, personally, was sales. And being able to go out to somebody and have a conversation, understand their issues, and identify potential solutions to help them succeed. And as a result, drive business that way. And so I had an offer from IBM to go to IBM Global Sales School after graduation, and went through a 6-month rigorous classroom training, doing everything from mock sales, customers, where you're sitting in a room with 3 of your peers, and one person is there as a customer, and you got to pretend that you're in a sales environment and trying to sell them something, right? But consultatively, right? Understanding their issues, really digging deep into what their business looks like, and how you can provide answers for them and make them more successful. Great process. It's definitely been the foundation of my career and allowed me to get to where I am today because of that. And I actually still run into people that say, wait, you went to IBM Global Sales School? That's amazing. That's such an incredible program. So it has a ton of brand recognition within the industry. And one of the interesting things I did is I took the skill set, so everything wasn't completely new. I wasn't going in and selling from day one and learning how to do this all over again. But I took with me some of the technology that I learned at IST. Learned a little bit about SAP, learned a little bit about Oracle. And so I supported them as partners. And so throughout my career, you can see from my title, when you walk in the door, I'm actually a National Partner Sales Executive. And what that means is that I manage sales partnerships between 2 companies. So the company I happen to work for and the company that I'm managing a partnership with. And I manage partnerships with SAP, Oracle. I was a Microsoft partner for 6 years before joining Microsoft, where I am today. And then I also manage partnerships with smaller firms, like some of the object storage companies out there, CleverSafe, which was acquired by IBM a couple of years ago, Skillity is a big one out there today, and SwiftStack, which is an open source cloud object storage technology. And then in 2006, I had the opportunity to go work for Sun Microsystems. If you look up Sun Microsystems today, it'll take you to Oracle. But Sun was a really cool technology company. And actually, a lot of the people at Penn State, I started doing computer science classes on Spark platform, which was the Spark workstation is something that Sun developed. So going to work for Sun was kind of a cool, really interesting thing, another big name brand recognition. But they were acquired Oracle in January of 2010. And so by June of 2010, I started running photography at the time. I'll talk about that in a second. In June of 2010, I went to work for HP. And at that time, I was looking for something cool and unique and interesting to do. And I was looking for a creative outlet. And so I took the opportunity to pick up photography. My wife and I were going on one of our first big international trips that we did together to Italy for 10 days. And we got a camera, a super cheap one, DSLR, and ended up taking some really cool photos. And that actually spawned foreign photography, which I still have this to this day. It's less of a business, more of a creative outlet. But because there's demand for the photos that I take, I've set up a full storefront online, and people can go out and buy my photos today. So like that photo of the IST building, that's one of the ones that I took a number of years ago. For the front page, I don't know if you guys caught that, the title slide is the corner room with a CATA bus driving by while I'm exposing the photo. So it's at the end again. But just really that's you got to have something to keep life fun and engaging outside of work, and this has been my outlet. In 2015, my manager from HP went over to Seagate and wanted me to come work for him. And ended up working, Seagate was doing some pretty cool and interesting stuff of trying to invest in full stack of their system. Instead of having just a hard drive layer in a particular server, they wanted to capture the full stack, right, and go out there and potentially compete with some of the big guys like the HPs and the Dells of the world. It was a cool endeavor. I had the opportunity to manage the entire Microsoft relationship there, and unfortunately, business decisions happened and changes occurred, as change is the only constant. You know, as a result, I ended up managing some other partners. I managed a partnership with Intel, which was a lot of fun. By about this time last year, I was interviewing with Microsoft for an opportunity that popped up. And that's where I am today. So I'm a national partner sales manager. I actually manage partnerships with SI partners, so systems integrators. So you think of the Accentures, Deloitte's, DXC, you know, these big systems integrator partners. I manage kind of the next level of partner down, right, which is still nationwide presence, and still, you know, good name, good reputable brands in the industry, but doing different types of engagements, maybe not being as complex as some of the big ones. So I've got 5 partners today that I manage and support the leaders. Yeah, question?
Do you ever worry that, well, you obviously don't because you're pretty successful, but that people look at your resume and say that there's not loyalty or something? Or is it normal in the tech world for people to keep on moving?
That's a very good question. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was actually coached by one of my old managers from IBM and Sun. He told me, look, you know, make sure you stick with some place for 5 years at least. Like, don't jump every year or every other year. It's going to be too much on your resume. And so I took his advice. I stayed at HP for 5 years, and you know, put in some real time there and established a name for myself within the company, which was great to see. Unfortunately, HP was going through some changes. I probably would stay a little bit longer, but they were going through some changes at the time within their the business unit that I was in, and I didn't think that those were changes that were the right direction for me, and so I ended up deciding to leave the company. But I'd say probably 5 years ago, that was a big concern. It really was. And so I was making sure that I had something on the resume that showed some longevity. Now, I don't think so. And the problem is, and the reason I'd say that is because companies will let you go with a week notice or a couple days notice, right? There's no loyalty on the company part, right, of the employees. And the companies that do have loyalty, it's incredible. There are a couple out there that are really good and have that kind of loyalty, but I've seen too many people that put in 10, 20 years at a company, and then they're shown the door next round of layoffs. And they found it, and whatever the reason was, it could be a location issue. They weren't based in the right place for the new business model being rolled out. It could have been an issue with skill set and maintaining, their ability to execute the business. Could have been any number of reasons, but I've seen it too much, and I've actually been asking a couple of my former colleagues that same exact question, like, hey, I've got this blip of 2 years of Seagate on my resume, but I had 5 at HP, and I'm hoping to stay at Microsoft for 5, 10, 15 years. What do you recommend? What are you saying? Like, yeah, that's the thing in the past. So I would say coming out of college, you definitely want to do 2 solid years, same place, minimum, right? Maybe more. And then go from there and see where your career takes you. You just never know where the next opportunity comes from. Good question. Okay. I know it's like half the time talking about myself and background, but I wanted to bring that up there because there's a lot of interesting themes, and again, the underlying theme here has changed. Right? At the end of the day, I never expected myself to be in a sales role, doing what I'm doing right now. But when you think of sales, think of Wolf of Wall Street. I've just seen Wolf of Wall Street. Right? Yeah, okay, well, okay. All right, so there's a lot of references coming up about that. No surprise, probably. But you think of the guy with the slick back hair, right? Danny DeVito from the movie Matilda, right? Trying to, these dirty used car sales guys, right? And when you talk to used car sales guy, it could be further from the truth, but at the end of the day, like, they have a goal, right? They have a mission in what they're trying to achieve, right? They have a number of cars sold target, a revenue target maybe for the month. And, they unfortunately sometimes have to do some crazy things to hit that number. So there is a stigma associated with that. But you can overcome that through value selling, right? And so when you all are, and actually here, just quick show of hands, and if you don't feel comfortable answering this, you don't have to, but who here has been interviewing for jobs after college, okay? Or going on to graduate school, whatever. Who here has an offer today? Those are going to go, okay, good. So when you went through that process, whether you realize that or not, you were selling, right? You were positioning yourself to showcase the best of what you have to offer to that company, to try and convince them to say, yes, we want to make an offer. And so that's something that you probably pick up along the way. You may not, it might have been unconscious that you were doing that and going through that process, because that's what Penn State puts you through, is make sure that you go through the process of making sure that you know you have a strong foundation of skill sets to leverage, and you know you're going to be able to make an impact in whatever organization you end up in. And that's one of the coolest things about IST specifically is there are people. I have a good friend who worked for IBM for a number of years, worked for Xerox for a couple of years, went back to IBM, and now he decided to move to the Dominican Republic and start a resort. He's actually building a resort right now. And who knows, right, what any of us could be doing. There's just incredible stories out there. So this was me, first interview out of college. I was in New York City, in New York City, interviewing for IBM, sales role. And the sales manager picks up the pen on the desk and says, sell me this pen. This is before Wolf of Wall Street came out. Like this is like, we're talking like 2004, right? And then these things came out 2012, 2010, something like that. And he handed me a pen, he said, sell to me. And I was completely caught off guard, right? Because the whole time I'm talking about myself. And I didn't realize that that's not necessarily how you sell, right? You sell through showing value to whoever your audience happens to be and giving them something that is interesting, piques their interest, that they take action on, right? And they change in some capacity. And so he wanted me to sell this pen to him. Now what I said is, okay, it's a great black pen, it's got this awesome cap on it, so you don't get any pen on your shirt, you put it in your pocket. And it writes really well, and again, I had no prep for this, no idea. Now if you watch Wolf of Wall Street, you see this scene, right? Classic supply and demand, right? Where, hey, write your name down on a napkin. I don't have a pen, exactly, right, there you go. Pen's $10, here you go. And so there's a value sequence that's created, and that could be supply and demand, that could be showing the customer the impact that they could get through doing what you need them to do. Make that sale of the pen, and you turn the whole entire scenario around. And so if you haven't seen this movie, it's a bit of a crazy movie, but this scene, in particular, the one when I'm sitting here, is actually one of my favorites because of this scene with the pen. So, first of all, does anyone have any questions? You feel free to raise your hand at anyone. Okay. So we'll do a quick crash course in sales. And this is kind of a bit of a shotgun approach. So it's not going to be like, do this, and do this, and you'll be successful. That's never the case. There's always a whole bunch of choose your own adventure paths. And so you can get from point A to point Z in 100 different ways. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, just backtracking to the Penn.
Yeah.
Now that you have the experience in sales, how would you approach the answer now?
Oh, that's a great question. I would probably approach it this way, right? It's understanding. I would say, what do you need to do in the next, week that requires some kind of pen? And you can't ask that question, right? Because they won't give you a straightforward answer. You have to go around and do it consultatively. You have to understand what they're looking to do. And maybe you find out that that person is starting a job soon, or they're taking a college course and they need a pen to write notes. And all of a sudden, there's your hook, right? You know that you can provide some value by allowing them to take notes in their class. But you have to develop that relationship, and you have to understand what they're looking to do. So you can't just walk in and say, I've got this great pen, right? And it's black ink. Here you go. You've got to talk with them. You have to understand what they're looking to do. So yeah, it would definitely be a longer process, but at the end of the day, you're going to hook them so quickly, there's no other option in their mind, right? You're the guy showing up with the solution, the answer to all their issues, and they're going to buy from you. Yeah, good question. All right, I watched a couple of the other Startup Week presentations. I don't know if you all have had the opportunity to do so as well. But one person called out, blanking on his name right now, but he called out that he would not be able to sell anything that he couldn't stand behind, right, that he didn't believe in. And I believe that too. And so one of the things I ended up doing when I was at HP, helping to manage the Microsoft relationship, is I would go out and ensure that I physically saw the servers that I was going to be selling. I sold all of the HP hardware stack, server, storage, and networking gear, to customers that were looking to run specific Microsoft applications. And we customized the platform. Actually, customized the platform to actually provide optimized experiences on our platforms for that application. And so I had the opportunity to sit down at a keyboard, right, and see the application that we were pitching. I got to see all of the server, storage, networking gear that we were selling. Pull out the individual, trays of servers, and here's a HPDL 580 4U server, and see the guts of it, see the technology that we built into it, so that I can have a more intelligent conversation with the customer and answer more of their questions that might be potential blockers, but I have to go back and find some answer right in the room, at the same time. And that was invaluable. So always make sure that you can stand behind what you're selling. And that's gonna help you go a long way. Today, I can't actually touch what I sell. I sell cloud, and so that's data centers that are so heavily armed. It's more armed than Fort Knox, right? I can't get into it. I think I've had one customer that managed to get into one for super high level executive visit. But you can't physically touch this. But the value you can sell is through the applications, through the solutions, and then bringing everything, I'll talk about in a second, bringing everything back to a business solution that's going to add business value. 80-20 rule. This is so critical. I can't tell you how many people talk. I know I'm doing a lot of talking at you right now, but if we were sitting down having a one-on-one conversation or a small group setting, I'd be doing a lot of listening. And an 80-20 rule, listen to talk, is absolutely critical, and you will come across so much more intelligently than you realize by listening. I've been in customer meetings where we had an hour meeting. I remember this one, I was in ACH Foods in Memphis, Tennessee, and sitting there listening to their issues and what they're trying to do with the SAP environment and trying to position a Sun platform to help them with their needs. And we had an hour meeting with their tech team. I didn't say anything for 55 minutes. I just listened the whole time, took notes, and at the end of it, I said, okay, let me just make sure I understand this right. You're trying to do this, which is going to impact this, which is going to show bottom line results here. And that really floored them, right? And the whole time they think I'm just sitting in the room, just being, a junior guy, so 3 years out of college, just taking notes. The 80-20 rule is so critical. Know your audience, your customer. Right? Walk in knowing that your customer's got, the person you're visiting talking to has got, 2 kids in high school, or they, like to, go out for brunch, this particular restaurant. Like, you get to know them, right? I've got a customer right now who, it's just a funny, just conversation just on the side. Found out that they used to go to the same restaurant that I used to go to in New York City every time I was in the city. This is Bobby Flay's Mesa Grill. Shut down a couple years ago, but it was one of the best spots. And we still, like multiple conversations we've had on that restaurant, reminiscing about it, but it drives that relationship with your client. Buying the pain train. Who here knows about Triple T, Terrible Terry Tate? It's like old school. Look this one up, look him up sometime. So Reebok did a series of advertising, I think it was like right before the Super Bowl, and then during the Super Bowl, and it was, this guy was, Terry Tate was the office linebacker. And so he was the enforcer in the office, and he would come in and if someone did something wrong or drank all the coffee and didn't refill it, right, he was there, and he would do the pain trains coming, and it's a hilarious ad. Go look it up. But Terrible Terry Tate and the pain train. But you want to find the pain train with your customers, right? You want to find out who is hurting by not taking action, right? Whose business is declining because they're not deploying the system they need to deploy, or doing what they need to do to help make that business survive. And it's never just one person. It's always across multiple people, multiple organizations. Identify decision makers and influencers. Probably a no-brainer, but we oftentimes get caught talking to who we feel comfortable with, right? And these people potentially are influencers, right? If I'm going and talking to an IT shop, I'm having a great conversation with them, they most of the time don't own the budget to be able to do what needs to be done. And so this is a great opportunity to expand your horizon and find out who actually makes that decision, who signs the dotted line, cuts the check. This is actually a line from this recent training I took in the fall called Challenger Sales Model. The Challenger Sales Model is the concept of essentially showing your client, or the person you're trying to influence, that it's more painful to stay on your current path than it is to change. And that's the only way to get people to change. So I know you've had a couple speakers coming in here talking about some of these large ERP systems. I think there was a gentleman on Monday talking about SAP quite a bit. Yeah, customers don't upgrade SAP more than every 5 years, maybe every 10 years. CEOs would prefer you not touch their environment more than once, every 10 years. And so for you to be able to go in there and try and draw up some additional business with them and show them that there's increased value by upgrading the latest platform, that's critical, right? For you to have a shot at doing anything with that client. And so you need to show them this, that the change is actually going to be easier than they realize. And once you get them into that mindset and challenge their beliefs that maintaining the status quo is okay, you will get that change. Prepare for objection handling. How many here have heard the word no? From something you want to do. You applied to a college you wanted to go to, got shut down. Applied for a job, right? I've had that. I interviewed with Lockheed Martin. And they said, no thanks. It is what it is. And so everyone hears that, but you have to be prepared for how you handle that objection, how you handle rejection at the end of the day. Tell the story, tying your solution to the actual business results. That's what's going to change the game here. That's how you're going to show some kind of movement. Nobody says, hey, that's really cool technology, let's do that. They say, okay, I can save $1 million a year by deploying this, which is only going to cost me $250,000 to deploy. Perfect. Where do I sign? Right? So there's cost savings versus increased revenue. And again, just change is the only constant. That's what this comes down to. I won't spend a ton of time on this, but if you were to go look up sales, and I'm trying not to say Google sales because I work for Microsoft, so say Bing sales, you're going to find a couple of interesting acronyms. BANT, budget, authority, need, timeline. So whenever I went into a sales call, early on in my career, now I just do this naturally, I would actually write on the top right corner of my paper, BANT. And as I had conversations, instead of taking notes on everything that customer said, I would actually be like, oh, wait a second, they just mentioned budget. Right? Oh, okay, this is the guy, it's not the person I'm talking to, but this guy over here is the decision maker. They have the authority to sign off on a $500,000 investment. Need, right? If you can illustrate that they really have need. By the way, this doesn't come out in the first conversation. It comes out in multiple conversations. Why you have to develop the relationship so you get the second call and the third call, and then eventually start looking at closing. And then you want to understand the timeline. Again, in the sales world, and you know, when you're in college here, you're focused on a semester time frame, right? In the business world, it's quarterly. And so you're going to be looking for quarterly results. Or let's say, for example, let's say you're not in a sales role, and you're looking to try and do something interesting and new in your company, and you want to affect some kind of change that way. Funding is based quarterly, everywhere. And so if you try, and like this week is the worst week to go and ask for money, because it's the last week of Q1. And next week is a great week to talk about money. And so you understand the timelines that exist, and be able to position that, you'll have greater success. ABC, so here, does anybody see Glenn Ross? I never have, I've just seen this scene. Alec Baldwin talks about always be closing, right? Always be closing. And that's something that is good and bad, right? But you want to kind of keep your eye on the prize, is what that means at the end of the day. And it's good to have it. SMART goals. If you haven't been introduced to this within IST, something that might be good to take on with you, not necessarily a sales methodology, but something that does come up. Again, you know, sales is very cut and dry. We're starting here, we've got to sell the customer on something here, and we want to close it on this date, right? So there's a very clear vision in mind on what you're trying to get to. Does that vision always happen? Absolutely not. Right? But if you set up some SMART goals to help you get there, right? That's, you know, measurable, smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time limited. It'll help to kind of take that conversation and direct you where you're looking to go. And then if you take these and you really boil them down and refine it further, you get something like this. So this is a conglomeration of different sales models that I've seen at different companies. But it's everything from identifying a lead or a prospect, and then creating a strategy with that client on how they want to go out and deploy this and do what they're looking to do. Continue to present the value, prove the value out. Sometimes you have to actually go and do a proof of concept. And you have to say, look, you know, you can't, don't take my word for it. Let's show you. Let's actually have your team sit down at these laptops and go through it. We do it all the time with all of my partners. And then finally, realizing the value, negotiating the terms, closing the deal. So when you boil it all down, right, you get something that looks like this. This is a slide that our CEO actually presented to all of our partners. He presents this to customers regularly. On the left, these are Microsoft's. I haven't talked a lot about Microsoft, by the way, because I don't think anyone caught that, but here, these are very Microsoft slides right now. Modern Workplace is everything from all of our Office 365 applications, Windows 10 Modern Workplace, and our security products are there. Business applications is our CRM platform, our ERP platform, Dynamics, among other things. Applications and infrastructure is where you get into the cloud, right? And getting into Azure and leveraging the System Center or System Center suite to get up into Azure, doing kind of a hybrid cloud motion. And then finally, data and AI is what's actually some really cool stuff coming out, so keep your eyes open for this in the next 3 months. We've got a lot of really cool things coming out about artificial intelligence. I had a briefing a couple weeks ago on that with one of my partners. Just game-changing stuff, quantum computing kind of stuff. And this is, you know, your typical database and SQL Server platform. But you bring this all together, because we don't walk in talking about things on the left with our clients. They don't care. They're like, okay, great, you know, I use that, that's neat. But what does it really do for me? It empowers my employees, it engages my customers, optimizes my operations, and or transforms my products. And that's getting from the solution to the actual business outcome. You always want to have numbers behind this, right? Savings, $10 million. Or, you know, increased revenue of 10x what they're doing today, you know, because of added efficiency. Whatever that is, you drill down into that. But you're no longer having a conversation with people about, hey, I've got this cool shiny new product. You know, you're talking about value that it provides to them. And I think we got, what, 10 minutes left? Okay. So we'll leave some time if anyone has any Q&A. I've got basically one more slide, and I wanted to share this with you. This is our CEO, Satya Nadella, and this is Microsoft's mission statement. is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So did anybody catch a technology reference in there? No, there's none. Doesn't exist. Right? We happen to use technology to increase the efficiencies, to add value to people's lives, to do things like provide technology in Africa to help them with getting access to healthcare faster or information faster. Through I've got a client right now. This is so cool, and I can't say any names, but there's the idea of connected ambulance, right? Where you're using IoT, Internet of Things devices on an ambulance to provide telemetry on the patient back to the hospital before they get there. Right? So they've already got all the readings ready to go. Like, that's so cool. It's going to actually save lives at the end of the day. And there's just so many other cool stories like that we've seen. There was actually, we highlighted a story in July last year of an eye doctor in the United States, in Los Angeles actually, who was helping patients overseas in third world countries. And basically there was a significant blindness issue with a couple of countries in Africa, I believe. And and so what he actually did is he was able to get on and do a Skype call with the people who were in the third world country to help them do the surgery. So really interesting stuff, and just hope this was valuable and interesting to you. I think we're kind of going to cut short, but thank you. Anyone have any questions? Feel free to ask me afterwards. Happy to answer.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
What do you focus on when you write like
Okay, so I always show some kind of impact. So actually, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's try that. I'll show you what I have. Don't judge with Microsoft employees. All right. Feel free to send me a link if you'd like. Okay. So if you look at my profile, so what I have written is this. So achieved quote every year for the past 10 years. So you've got some kind of numbers in there, you've got some kind of success that you've had. Supported multiple startups within major corporations on several occasions, kind of the entrepreneurial route, buzzword, and your multi-million-dollar initiative, right? So you want to show like what you did to have some kind of an impact. You want to show potential monetary value. Some of this stuff actually, I didn't have it in here. Let me see if I put it in below with my various companies. Some of this I actually took most of this from my resume. Yeah, I didn't. I took all it out because it's sensitive. Here we go. This is what. So this is one of my first job out of college at IBM, and you can see here reference the $150 million joint investment that was made between the two companies I was working for. $25 million in revenue. And it's not always money. It's not always money that's the result that was achieved. But you always want to start with, here's what I did, here's the impact that drove. And that could be anything from, one thing people, especially in IST, just always seem to forget is that every single class that you're in, you do some kind of a customer project. And it might be a case study, it might not be a real customer, but sometimes it is a real customer. And especially this class, 440W, it is usually a real customer that you're having an impact in potentially. Whether or not they deploy your solution is another thing, and there's really not the time frame with this course to be able to, for you to see that. But if they do, right, you can estimate like, hey, they would have had this kind of impact. And so you've already had so much, you've had more experience than anybody else in any other degree at Penn State with hands-on experience. Did I answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? I'm not gonna stop, that's good. So. Like a couple minutes left.
Do
Yeah.
you think you'll ever go back to development?
It's a good question. So I went back to web development a little bit. So there's actually a small bed and breakfast in Huntington, just out here about 45 minutes, that I built a website in 2003 and had a full back-end interface and whatnot, and they wanted to be able to manage it on their own. And I built enough for them to do that, but I'd have to go in and every tweak something. And so maybe 2010, 2011, I actually went back in, did a full redesign with them. We transferred everything over weekly, so they were able to manage everything themselves and make changes themselves. I showed them, I taught them how to do it. That was probably the last time I actually was like hands-on, doing development. But possibly, you never know, right? At the end of the day, if it's not an if for me. It's a when I go out and start my own company, whatever that opportunity arises. I will absolutely need to, design a website and, build that first initial pass at, getting the name out there so yeah, definitely not saying no, but at the same time, it is so difficult because when you graduate from college, there's very little free time after, working so hard for a couple of years, that I lost a lot of the knowledge I had around, different coding platforms like Java, JSP, Cold Fusion, etc. Yeah.
So like, if you, like, as you said that you wanted to start your own business, so you want to eventually be within a startup, would you present yourself as an asset for sales, or would you present yourself as an asset for IST?
Great question. I think with where my skill sets are today, it would be more of a sales asset. There's so many people that could do, application design or coding, better than I could. But that's also making the assumption that it's going to be a technology-based startup. I mean, who knows? You can take anything, you can do almost anything with this degree, and with the background of having technology experience, outsourcing like a mobile app design, mobile app development, so cheap, right? Whether it's a company in the U.S. or a company in Brazil or Mexico or wherever, they can do that work so much faster than I could. I know for sure. But I would probably start with the sales route to try and drum up that business to show the value of what I was trying to achieve, and rely on others to help to build whatever it is we're doing. Right? Good question.
Being in sales, I assume you are on the road a lot. How do you deal with that?
Good question. Okay, so from 2004 to last year, I was averaging 50 to 60,000 miles a year on an airplane, all domestically. So a lot of cross-country flights. I was actually, I don't know if you guys know him, Sean Knight, who was a professor at IST and then at Smeal afterwards. He actually just started his own company, Maine Bay and Berry Company. They do fresh seafood deliveries from Maine and from Maryland. I was actually just in his store last weekend talking with him about that type of thing on travel. And he actually mentioned that of all the people he stayed in touch with after college, he's one of my professors, of all the people he stayed in touch with, I'm the one who travels the most. I was like, really? There's got to be other people doing a lot of international trips, and apparently I travel quite a bit. So I've been to all these different, I've been to every major city in the U.S. multiple times. Been to Las Vegas, and this summer will be my 18th time in Las Vegas. And that's cool and everything the first couple times, but after you lose a couple hands of blackjack, that's it. Yeah, you're like, all right, I'm done. But yeah, it's for a while there, it was exciting, and actually for a long time, I took my girlfriend at the time and then my wife with me on a lot of these trips, and so she got to see the world as well. She was able to work remotely in some of her jobs she had initially out of college. But now that I have kids, so I have twins. They're 4.5 years old, and within the first 12 months that they were born, I was trying to do trips to the West Coast and back so quickly that I was doing red eyes every single flight. So I did 12 red eyes in the first 12 months of their lives because I didn't want to miss anything. And that kind of triggered something with me. I said, okay, I need to slow down a little bit. So I slowed my travel the past couple of years. The job I just took with Microsoft limits my travel for the most part to Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York City. So very attainable to get there from here, possible day trips to Pittsburgh out and back. I miss very little of my kids' lives now, especially. You know, like I took my son, he's like the American Ninja Warrior show, he's a Ninja Warrior. He did gymnastics, like he goes around and has fun, and he's 4.5 years old, and I get to take him that every day, or every week, which is cool. So it has been a struggle, without a doubt. My recommendation there is do as much travel as you can early in your career. Position yourself, if you want to travel, position yourself to go out there and see the world. I have a good friend who, before he got married, he was I think, early 30s when he got married. No, he was 30. So basically about 10 years out of college, within 10 years, he did 2 million miles of airline travel worldwide. He was everywhere. He's been to 60 or 70 countries. And it's just, get that out of the way fast. Because when you have a family or you know, later in life you want to do something different, that opportunity doesn't always present itself. But there's definitely a work-life balance that you have to achieve.
Great, I think we're out of time, but thank you so much, Mr. Moore, for coming.